Make 7 up yours. Spot the Video Game is a brand licensed strategy game featuring the Red Circle from 7-Up, a soft drink I often forget exists now that my grandmother is no longer with us. The game was developed by Graham Devine, notably responsible for games like The Seventh Guest, Quake 3 Arena, and Halo Wars. The gameplay is similar to an arcade game that came out the same year called ATAX. Interestingly, ATAX was originally named Infection, but the company that came up with it was bought by Virgin Mastertronic, who then licensed the development to the Leland Corporation, who then converted the game to feature the 7-Up Spot. All of that took place within a year's time, and Graham Devine is said to have put Spot the Video Game together in just 6 weeks with no development hardware or software. I'm not even sure how that works. You could even buy the game for $24.99 if you mailed in 4 specially marked labels from 7-Up bottles. In today's money, that's still a whopping $50. Okay, what's up with Spot the Video Game on the NES?
Back to throw. He's got a man deep. Touchdown! Leaping grab in the end zone. The defender can do nothing about it. We've got a tie ball game with less than a minute to go. It's the lead. Here's the kick is up.
Now there's Spot, the video game. Ask your parents to see specially marked bottles of 7-Up for details.
If you play the game without messing with any of the customization options, you'll be presented with a 7x7 board full of blank circles. Using this confusing menu, you can decide which corners you want to start from, and which corners you want the computer or player 2 to start from. You can even play matches with 3 other computer players to ramp up the excitement. The concept is pretty simple. Each player takes turns moving their spots. If you move just one position away from your selected spot, your number of spots grow, indicated by the number in your corner. It's like making a copy of your spot in an adjacent slot. But if during your move you skip over a slot, then you do not gain and instead just move the spot from one place to another. You might want to do this to convert an opponent's spots to your color. The end goal is to have the most spots when there are no more moves remaining and the board is full of spots. If you move your spot and your opponent is adjacent to where you place it, it will change their spots to your spot's colors. The game's original name of Infection really makes sense here when you think about it. You want to move your spots to where they will butt against as many of your opponent's spots as possible without leaving yourself vulnerable to the same thing. There are plenty of strategies here to employ, and honestly, it's not a bad time. I especially enjoy watching the animations of Spot moving around the board. The tide can change rather fast if you aren't careful. The computer is no slouch, but is predictable. If you play against multiple computer opponents, it's fun to watch them go at each other, and sometimes it's best just to let that happen while you focus on growing your spots. If you actually grow spots during this game, please see a dermatologist. Tell them who sent you though. Get them to subscribe. In the options menu, you can edit your own boards, and essentially that grants you the ability to remove certain slots from the board. Doing so can add an extra bit of challenge to the game and help keep things fresh, and that's really the issue with this game. It's too basic, even for an NES game. If you have people to play against, it's more fun, and this game does allow up to 4 players if you have a way to do it. Unfortunately, each match is one and done, and you can only get so many miles out of customizing the boards. The game could have benefited from a campaign or a tournament mode. This wasn't the only game to somehow feature the circle in the 7-Up logo. Game Boy received Spot, The Cool Adventure, a port of another brand-licensed game, McKids, from the NES, that I'm sure to review here one day. Cool Spot released in 1993 for the Sega Genesis and was eventually ported to Super Nintendo, Game Gear, and Game Boy in the US. It's a fairly enjoyable platformer wrought with product placement, and was actually the first Genesis game I ever beat. Fun fact. And lastly, there's 1995's Spot Goes to Hollywood, another platformer that released on the Genesis, Saturn, and PlayStation. The Saturn and PlayStation versions have some full-motion video cutscenes and clips. The game received passing grades despite many finding issue with the isometric view being troublesome for platforming. Well, that does it for Spot the Video Game on the NES. Check yourself for spots, and thanks for watching.